The Red Rock Baja style upper grille replacement that we have here would be a great choice for all 2018 through 2020 F-150 owners who might be going for that Raptor styling but don't want any massive logos or lettering, which does make for a very clean appearance. Now the grille will feature a durable automotive grade ABS plastic build along with a satin black finish, and of course your LED accent lighting off for right around $250. Now the site is going to call this a very strong 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter and at least a couple of hours to complete from start to finish, but honestly don't get a little discouraged if it takes you longer than that, because removing the grille and the trim pieces can be a bit tricky if you've never done it before. But regardless guys, feel free to hang out with me for a bit. We'll talk about the grille and then we'll show you how it gets installed later in the video. So swapping grills on your F-150 is a relatively easy and inexpensive way to totally change up the look of not only the front end, but really the entire truck. Now on that same topic, I would say one of the nice things in the grille category in particular is just the sheer number of options owners have to choose from. You got things ranging from mild to wild and really everything in between. Now at first glance, I would say this grille is based off the OE Raptor grille and does mimic some of the key ingredients in that regard, such as your overall shape and honeycomb design here, but more importantly, the signature LED running lights going across the top. That being said, I'm also picking up a lot of STX vibes here as well from the 2018 through 2020 model year trucks. But maybe the biggest departure from those factory grills, whether it be Raptor or STX, is the lack of any lettering or logos across the middle, which again, I feel makes for a very clean look. Now, as an added bonus, you're also opening up some additional airflow to the front end and more specifically your radiator, which should help with cooling a little bit as well. Materials are going to be very similar to that of the factory grille as well, because you're looking at a very durable and lightweight injection molded ABS plastic, which has been designed using OEM Ford CAD data, which basically allows the grille to fit like a factory part without any gaps or imperfections. Now, last but not least, guys, again, we did talk about the amber LED running lights here earlier, but we also need to talk about the fact that they do kick in some additional wiring to get everything up and running very easily. Now, these lights will tap into your factory headlights, meaning they're going to turn on anytime you fire up the headlights or the parking lights on your specific F-150. But now we want to shed just a little bit more light on that installation, pun intended, and to do so, feel free to check out our detailed walkthrough we promised you earlier, along with that quick tool breakdown right now.
The tools used for this install are a ratchet, clip removal tool, Phillips head screwdriver, 10, 8, and 7mm sockets. So for this install, we are going to have to remove the grille from the vehicle because we are replacing it. There's only a few simple hand tools that get this grille off and our new one installed. I'm going to walk you through every step of the process. So let's get started. So there's a series of clips located on the top of the rad cover that need to be removed so that the rad cover can come out, which will free up all of our hardware for the rest of our grille. I'm going to use my clip removal tool and just work my way around the rad cover and pop all the clips out. Now that all of our clips are removed, we can remove our rad cover. There are 2 electrical connections that need to be removed. One is for the active shutter, and the other is for the ambient air temperature sensor. Just unplug these, and then we can move on to the next bit of hardware. Next, using a 10mm socket on my ratchet, I'm going to remove the 4 10mm screws located on the top of the grille. Next thing I need to do is remove my lower fascia from my grill, and there are 2 screws located inside the wheel arch that need to be removed. One of ours is missing, but you'll need a 7mm socket to remove these 2 on this side and do the same on the other. Now we can go ahead and remove our lower fascia. This is going to expose some of the lower grill hardware that we need to remove next. Next, using an 8mm socket on my ratchet, I need to remove the 8mm screw here at the bottom corner of the grill. There's one right here on the bottom of this side, and again on the other side of the grill. Now that all of our hardware for our grill is removed, we can remove the grill from the vehicle. The active shutter assembly needs to be removed from the factory grill and transferred over to our new grill. There are 5 bits of hardware that hold the shutter assembly to the factory grill, one 10mm nut located on all 4 of the corners, as well as a screw here in the middle. I'm going to use my 10mm socket to remove all this hardware. There should be another 10mm nut located right here at this corner of the grill, but ours is missing. You'll just need your 10mm socket to remove that. Once again, at this last corner of the grill, there will be another 10mm nut, but ours is missing. You'll just need your 10mm socket once again to remove that. There are a series of clips located along the bottom side of the grill that need to be released in order to remove the active shutter assembly. All you're going to need to do is, I'm using my clip tool here, I'm just going to push in on the clips and lift up on the grill to separate them. The last thing we need to remove before we can pull our active shutter assembly off is these 5 clips here. They are located at the top side of the grill along the top edge. I'll just use my clip tool once again to pop these out and work my way down the line. Now we can fully remove our active shutter assembly. So the studded clips that are located behind the active shutter need to be transferred from the old grill to the new one. You're just going to slide those out and then slide them into the new positions on the grill. And you'll just have to repeat that for the other side of the grill as well. Slide your 2 studs out and transfer them over. Because of the built-in lighting in this grill, one of our headlights is going to have to be removed from the vehicle in order to tap into the proper circuit. We need to tap into a running light, and we need to wire the new LEDs into that running light circuit. Starting at the top of my headlight, there is 1 clip and 2 10mm screws that need to be removed. I'll use my clip tool and a 10mm socket to pull those out. Down here at the bottom of the headlight, there are 3 screws that need to be removed. This one 8mm here, the 10mm next to it, and this 10mm here up in the corner. I'll use my 8mm socket and my 10mm socket to remove those from the vehicle. Once I have those removed, I can pull my headlight out. With our headlight pulled out from the vehicle, we can see the wiring harnesses that are on the back. The wire that we need to tap into for the LED lights on the front of the grill are actually these ones here in our little corner marker light. There's a black and a green with an orange tracer. We'll need to tap into those for our power and ground sources. With our grill sitting here on the cart, now we can start transferring over some of the pieces that we removed earlier. These studded clips need to be installed into the new grill before your active shutter can be put back on. I'll clip these into each corner and then repeat that on the other side. Next, we'll need to install the provided mounting brackets onto each side of the grill. They just slide right into place, and then you can install them with the Phillips head screws that are provided and your Phillips head screwdriver. Once you have your screws in place, then you can install the provided garnish clips on the ends, and then repeat the same exact thing on the other side of the grill. Next, using the provided wiring harness in the kit, you can make all of your connections for your LED lights that are mounted in your grill. As I'm doing this, I'm making sure to route my wires towards the driver's side of the vehicle where I'll be tapping into my harness for my lights behind my driver's side headlight. Now that our wire harness is connected, we can reinstall our active shutter onto our grill assembly. Just line up your clips in the back, as well as your clip holes in the front. And then you can reinstall your hardware. I have my wire harnesses routed in between my outer grill and my inner grill active shutter along the top, around the side, and coming out the back. Now you can reinstall your 10mm hardware onto the back of your grill and tighten it down with your 10mm socket. We'll do this at all 4 corners. And now you can repeat that on the other side. Once the nuts are secured that hold down the back of the grill, you can reinstall the 5 clips along the top of the grill. The wires that I need to tap into to power up my LEDs on my grill are these 2 wires here that are located on this 2-pin connector that plugs into the back of the headlight. This is for my running light. I have my black wire with yellow tracer for my ground and my green wire with orange tracer for my power. The kit provides you with this type of vampire connection that clips into the wire and pierces it and runs the wire parallel to that so that it gets the power signal and ground signal that it needs. Now this is nice and it'll work for this install, but I like to be able to unplug anything that I install, especially if it's electrical. So I've opted to use this type of vampire connection, which installs exactly the same way, but it also accepts a male spade connection so that if I ever need to remove my grill or any other lights that I install using this type of connector, I can unplug it and plug it back in as needed. Just make sure that your wire falls in between the 2 metal prongs and close the connection. And those metal prongs will pierce through the insulation of the wire and into the copper, which should give you your power and ground signals. And then I can put 2 spade connectors on the ends of my wires for my grill, and I can tap right into these plugs. Now I can plug into my Scotch connectors here. Like I said, I just had to install a couple of spade connectors onto the ends of my power and ground wires coming off of my grill, and I'll plug them right into this and then test everything out. Now that our wiring is complete, we can go ahead and reinstall our headlight by making all of our connections and reinstalling the hardware, and then we can move on to installing the grill to the vehicle. Now that I have my headlights sitting back into place, I can reinstall the factory hardware that I removed earlier. There's one clip and 2 screws at the top, and there are 3 screws along the bottom and side. I'll need an 8 and 10 millimeter socket to reinstall those. So I have my grill just resting here on the edge of where it's supposed to be installed. Now that I've got all of my electrical connections made, my headlights back in, I can go ahead and reinstall my grill and plug in my active shutter and my ambient air temperature sensor. Now that I have my grill sitting back in place where it's supposed to be, I can reconnect my ambient air temperature sensor and my active shutter grill. I have to make sure that I do this, and don't forget, because this will cause a check engine light. Once I have those reconnected, I can move on to reinstalling my 10 millimeter hardware across the top of the grill. Now that I have my upper hardware reinstalled, I can move on to my lower hardware. I have 2 8 millimeter screws, one on either corner of the bottom of the grill. Just use my 8 millimeter socket on my ratchet and tighten those down. Now we can go ahead and reinstall our lower grill trim piece. It'll just snap into place and secure with the 2 7 millimeter screws at either corner. Now, using my 7 millimeter socket on my ratchet, I can reinstall the 2 7 millimeter screws on the corner of the lower grill trim, and I'll do this on both sides of the vehicle. And our last step will be reinstalling our upper radiator cover and all of the clips that secure it to the vehicle. And that's going to wrap up this review and install for the Speedform Baja upper replacement grill fitting your 2018 to 2020 F-150. Thanks for watching, and for all things F-150, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.